I haven't done many. No, that's going to be, no, that's not. Wait, hold on.
Yes.
Now it's just in front of my face.
No, it looks great. So my better half could join us. He's downstairs working on a project and everything got turned up. So it's just going to be me, unfortunately, for this.
Nothing wrong with that. I need to turn you up.
How are you?
What are we doing? I'm fine. How are you?
I am so good. I'm vaccinated. Good. I'm ready for life to get back.
Me too.
How about you?
I'm absolutely ready. I mean, I start back to work on August 9th, so let's do it.
Oh my gosh. Will you have any Okay, but before we do this, let me introduce you.
Okay.
Lots of talk. So I share these videos with my students as sort of like mini master classes, and for the people that I interview have a chance to talk without being bombarded by like questions that may derail them, right? Things that you want to share. So today, the amazingly talented, originally from Pittsburgh, Peter Matthew Smith. I am only going to give you a sample of some of his amazing credits. Aside from working regionally and here in Pittsburgh, he was in the original company of Rent, the original company of Hairspray. He's been in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway, Cry Baby in New York, the U.S. tour of Memphis, one of my favorite shows, and is currently on hiatus, but soon to be back playing King George in Hamilton. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Matthew Smith.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one adjustment. I was not in the original company of Rent, as much as I would have loved to have been.
You were replacement for replacement?
Well, I did the tour first, and then I did the Broadway company.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Got it.
I went to it was the second national company tour, but I did join. I joined the Broadway company, and Wilson Heredia was still there, and Byron Utley was still there from the original company. But that was it. Everybody else had gone by then.
Okay, not too shabby.
I mean, I'm not going to complain. That's for sure.
So I'm going to sort of throw a bunch of questions at you that I think my students need to hear from the horse's mouth, because they hear it from me. But I think first I want to ask you, how did you get started in theater? What was your first training that you remember that made an impact on you?
Well, I mean, see, that's a loaded question. See, I started when I was 7. I started when I was 7 years old, taking acting classes with Pam Gregg in Sewickley, and she had this program called the Attic Workshop. And because it used to be done out of her attic, it wasn't by the time I did it, but I took acting classes with her to start.
Nice.
But then I did like summer programs at Sewickley Academy, their performing arts camp, which is like now a big thing that they do every year. But then I kind of graduated to taking classes at the Pittsburgh Playhouse. And when I was 15 was when I started to take it seriously. You know, before then, there were classes that my parents sent me to that I enjoyed doing. But when I was 15, I remember I was taking a class with Eric Jensen. Do you remember Eric Jensen? He was a Point Park guy, but he's moved on. He's done lots of TV and film, but he'll play like some tiny little bit part. And of course, me and anyone else that knows him is always like, Eric Jensen, there he is, you know, but he's never playing leads or anything like that. But anyway, he was teaching this class.
Okay.
And it was just like a movement class, like an actor's movement class. And we played lots of theater games and stuff like that. But I remembered one day he pulled me aside after the class and just kind of said, "Hey, are you going to keep doing this?" And I was like, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean. He's like, do you want to keep performing? Do you want to take it seriously? And I was like, I haven't really thought about it. And he was like, because you should. You're really good. And just that little moment of him pulling me aside made me go, okay, I will.
Wow.
And then, of course, it was a little bit like he had an ulterior motive, kind of, because he was submitting people for striking distance at the time through Donna Belichick. And so a lot of Pittsburgh actors were in that film because it was shot in Pittsburgh. And I was cut out of it. I had a line, but I was cut out.
You remember?
But I remember. Well, it was what it was okay. Quick synopsis: Bruce Willis was trying to find a serial killer in Pittsburgh, and he was dumping bodies in the river. And my character dumped something in the river, and he was a teenager. He was 16. He dumped something, a rug, in the river, and Bruce Willis starts chasing him in a car, shoots a flare gun at the car blows up. Stuntman, I had a stuntman, crawls out of the car and runs away. Bruce Willis chases me, the character, and tackles me, flips me over. A train goes screeching by in the shot. It was a beautiful shot. Train going by, Bruce Willis like this, and Sarah Jessica Parker comes up, shotgun, like in my face. And I'm like, my dad's gonna kill me, and that was my line.
Okay, stop.
And then they realized.
Stop for a minute. That is quite possibly the greatest I got cut out of a movie or TV show story ever. Because not only are you working with Sarah Jessica Parker and Bruce Willis, but it was like an action scene.
It was. And Dennis Farina, Tim Busfield, all like they were in the honey wagons right next to me. I was chatting with them every day. And they were like, who is this kid? Like stupid. And I got cut out of it. But it was my first professional audition. And I booked it. I was cut out of it. And it's weird too, because my first film audition, I booked. My first Broadway audition, I booked. But that never happened again. It wasn't like,
okay. Well, that's a good place to start. Because I have interviewed people that have had that amazing, like, out of the gate. And I'd love to give you my 2 cents on why out of the gate is sometimes so amazing and like totally disprove it. I think it's because it's so authentically untainted by fear. I think when you first start, or like when you first do it, it's like, I'm doing it. And it's not about like, I need this job.
It's not a chorus line. It's not like it's more of, this is cool, let's do it, And you're right. There were no nerves involved. It was just
authentic.
Raw. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
So okay, this is a great transition. So going from did you go to college or high school and study theater in high school? Did you take that path?
Well, ish, because I took class. My high school didn't really have I went to Quaker Valley. At the time, there wasn't really theater classes.
Yeah.
We had we did a musical. And I had chorus class, that was it as far as performing. I took all my classes at the Pittsburgh Playhouse on Saturdays and then did summer programs. And that was it. I only did the one Saturday, like I wasn't like doing half day stuff because they didn't have the half day stuff when I would have loved that.
Yeah.
If they would have had that. And I never did stuff at CLO. I just kind of did Pittsburgh Playhouse through Ken Gargaro because he was doing stuff at the Pittsburgh Playhouse then, and then Gargaro Productions got its own thing afterwards. But yeah.
That's sort of how it was for me. I mean, I did like the musical with my high school, but all my theater training was in an outside school, very much like
Right.
where Ken had started. So I totally get that. And part of the reason is you don't have to, I want my kids to understand you don't have to take a prescribed route to continue doing what you love. I think education is super important, but there are so many different paths to get to what you want.
Right.
And I want to know, right out of the gate you had luck, but what lessons did you learn through auditioning and through working that were sort of your core of your education? For me, and I'll start and totally embarrass myself. The time that I lived in New York, I was so like wide-eyed. I'd like walk into any audition and just sing the cheeriest 16 bars for everything. I'd be like, I'm super positive.
Yeah.
Even if the show was not like, it wasn't appropriate. So for me, it was sort of baptism by fire. Like, Chris, you have to know what you're doing and how to sell yourself for that product. So that's my little story, but I'd love to know what you learned through your process.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, that the things that I've learned, especially when it comes to auditioning, is that at the end of the day, everyone's good. Everyone's good. And especially on that level, when you go to the professional level and you're auditioning, if you listen to what other people are doing, you're like, oh, okay. Like, it's not like I've got something special here, But that being said, but go in there and give them something special. So, and that's something that I learned to do, is that I would change things just slightly different, because auditioners are sitting there in a room all day long watching people. You have to stand out somehow. And when all these white boys are coming in, they need to have you stand out in some way. Yeah. So, I mean, early on when I auditioned for Mamma Mia, for example, it was a chorus call, and when I got to, because the first parts of it are just who needs to be moving straight on to really be singing the material of the show. And on that level, like I said, everyone is on the same page.
Yeah.
So I had to sing "Lay All Your Love" from Mamma Mia, but the sides that they gave us, the music that they gave us, was in Sophie the girl's key, and so all the guys were singing, "Don't go chasing your emotions," low. Yes. "Lay all your love on me."
I know where this is going.
And then, so I was like, this is boring. So I sang it up the octave, and I was like, "Don't go wasting your emotions, lay all your love on me," and I just did it.
Yeah.
And kind of like that, which I haven't sung in a while. But anyway, and what was funny was the musical director, his eyes got really big.
Yeah.
And of course, they're all Brits. And then when they're done, they're like, he's like, "No, you're supposed to sing that down the octave." And I said, "I'm sorry. I just, you know what? It didn't feel right in my voice down. So I just went for it." And he's like, no, it sounded great. And I was like, okay, and that was what helped me stand out. Yeah. And what I learned later in the process, in addition to standing out in some way like that, at the very end of callbacks, they were saying, the panel, we found this out later on, they said they just wanted to know who were they wanting to go onto a deserted island with.
Oh, yeah. Who
would we want to bring with us? And so the final day of auditions was, okay, we want this person to come with us. We want this person because they seem fun. It's just be fun. Enjoy it.
Like that.
You have to enjoy yourself.
You totally.
Because if you're uncomfortable, they're uncomfortable, and they're like, you don't want to be here. Get out.
That's every show, right, Peter? I mean, every show is we're putting people on a desert island. And that's a great thing, because I always say to my kids, if you're not willing to leap and you're not willing to try, no one wants to be on the island with you, because you're not going to like, hey, we're building a raft today. I don't want to try that.
Yeah. Treat it like improv. Don't say yes and. Don't say no. If you say no, scene's over.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, you got it.
That is so great, because I tell my kids that all the time about that just like you said, everyone's talented, but they're looking for people who are authentically themselves, but are also just willing to go there. That's amazing. So you got the show, obviously.
I did. And yeah, it was just stand out. That's all it is. You got to stand out.
I love that. Do you have any other I'll tell you my standout. So I was living in Pittsburgh, but they had a casting call for Urinetown. And this is like a long time ago. I wanted nothing more in my life than to play Urinetown. Like nothing more in my life.
Yeah.
And the girl who originated on Broadway.
Yeah. Looks like you.
Yeah. Like in a weird way where you finally see your doppelganger and you're like.
Yeah.
So we drove up, and I thought, we just drove up for the audition, and I sang from The King and I, We Kiss in a Shadow, but I changed one word. I sang, we piss in a shadow, we hide from the moon. And the guy in the room, like literally almost fell off his chair. And he's like, who are you? And I was like, I'm from Pittsburgh. I left feeling like $1 million. I did not get the show.
But you gave an amazing audition.
But I left feeling like, yay. But that's another example of like taking risks. Do you have any other crazy, wacky, I took a risk and paid off?
Well, you know, I have an interesting one that I've used twice now, and I got the show both times, but at one of the big Hamilton actually. But here's what it is, but I don't know if this is I don't know if this is why I got the job, but again, it's making yourself relatable in the room, because again, they're seeing all these people. So I have an old Star Wars bag, right?
Of course you do. Those of you
watching.
Of
course I do. I mean, look. Yeah. Anyway, but
Peter, wait. Those of you watching, Peter also has a full stormtrooper. I don't know if you still have it. A full stormtrooper.
I gave it to a kid a while ago, but yes, I used to have a full stormtrooper outfit. Yeah. But anyway, see, like it's like cool arts that someone did, and it says Star Wars. But I got this on the Rent tour in Seattle in like 1998, right? But it's a cool, interesting bag. And so what I did was I walked in the room, put my music on the piano with the accompanist, but I left the bag in a spot that they could see it, right? But not in a way that goes, I wasn't like, here's my bag. I wasn't like that. Wow, it's knocked off everything. But anyway, I just kind of set it down quickly, but I made sure that it faced out so they could see it.
Yeah.
And now my daughter's coming to interrupt me right now. Allison, I need to keep talking. Oh wait, okay, come here, real quick. Come here. This is Addison. Hi. This is Chris.
You're going to be featured with my students, so you have to say hi to my students and say, listen to Miss Lada. Can you say that? Can
you say, listen to Miss Lada? Listen to Miss Lada is your line. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Listen to Miss Lada.
There you go. Well done. Okay, I need you to go back upstairs.
Okay, bye.
I love you. Okay, bye. I love you. Good night. So I just placed the bag gingerly, and And then I go and just start like talking to the accompanist and then go back and sing my song. The first time I did it, immediately the director goes, "I love your bag." And I'm like, "Thank you." And she was like, "So cool." And I was like, "Thanks." And that was it, like short conversation. The second time, Hamilton, I walk in the room with it, and Alex Lacamoire goes, "Where did you get that bag?" So then I'm telling a story of where I got it.
Yeah.
And then we're talking. Then Tommy Kail's joining in on the conversation. He was like, "God, what year was that?" "Oh, okay." And then he was like, and then the movie came out the year after that. The new prequels came out, and we started talking about that because Tommy and I are about the same age, and so we're just talking, and we're having a conversation, and there's no like, we're no longer auditioning. We're just talking, and you're relatable. And then, and then they say, "Well, we want to work with this person," is basically how it works. Because at the end of the day, I can hear everybody else coming in the room. Everybody is sounding the same. So they got to go, "Okay, well, let's hire Star Wars back because he seemed cool."
Yeah, because you made yourself relatable and not in, like you said, you didn't walk in the room with your bag like.
Yeah.
You made yourself relatable and approachable.
Right. And I knew what I was doing. I knew I was giving them a conversation piece if they chose to use it. If they didn't, fine. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But you never know.
May I use your bag for my next audition? Is the next audition?
Well, not this bag. but use a cool bag. Come on. Bring something in. Bring a conversation piece with you. Like, don't put a llama over your shoulders, but like, I mean, you know what I'm saying. Right, something small.
That's a good one. Okay, my next question, especially geared to my students, it's something that I feel like a broken record about. But what does it mean to you? What is the importance of self-discipline to you as a working actor? Why do you have to be self-disciplined in order to be a working actor?
That's a loaded question. But what I would say is, you, especially if you want to perform in theater, Broadway, tours, 8 shows a week.
Okay.
8 shows a week is a different animal than regional theater, than TV film. So I'll speak to 8 shows a week. 8 shows a week is not easy. And after a while, especially if you have to dance, your body starts to go, "What are you doing?" Your body is like, "Okay, this was a few weeks now, and you're still doing this. Why?" And now the same thing happens with your voice.
Absolutely.
Because if you're singing the same thing, repeating movement and muscle movement in your voice, all of that, your body will react in a way that says, "Okay, and you need to take a break." Yeah. And so you'll kind of hit a wall at about week 5, which is normally when previews are ending, and now it's time to open, and your voice ain't working so great. Things like that. So you got to remember that your voice is a muscle, your body has muscles. You take care of your body. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest thing. And that's all encompassing. Stop eating crap. Stop eating like a teenager. I have to keep reminding myself that. Yeah, but at some point, you got to make the better, healthier decision when it comes to diet, when it comes to water. Drink more water. Stop drinking soda, alcohol, whatever. Not saying you can't do it. All things in moderation, and so that's the big thing, is take care of your body.
And that's great that you mentioned, you know, the body as a muscle, as a dancer, as a mover, and as a singer. But like, the reality is, and you can totally stop me if you think I'm not telling it, not being putting the right words out there. Oh, my pandemic brain just won't.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm with you.
That you can't sustain a career if you don't.
No, not at all.
I mean, you could be this like person that has this amazing talent and can do a show for a week because you blow everything out, or you
right.
You know, but you can't sustain a career if you're not sustaining your mental and physical health, right?
Yeah, right. It's true. And that's also, you know, when you're young and you're in rehearsals for a show and they're like, hey, who can do X?
Oh my.
Don't always be the one to raise your hand.
Right.
Don't be like, I could do it, because you just want to put yourself out there and be a star. I get it, but slow your roll. You know, like just pace yourself. Think about, okay, wait, what are they asking? Do I want to do that 8 shows a week, 50 weeks a year? Because you get 2 weeks off. But I mean, that's a lot. And your body's going to be like, calm down.
Oh my gosh, Peter, if I could go back in time, what you just said is exactly what I would tell my younger self. Is when they ask, who can do this? Do not raise your hands and toes just because you want, right?
Right.
Amazing advice. Amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, and to be perfectly honest and throw myself under the bus a little bit here, I go to the nth degree. When they say, who can, I'm hiding. Who can do this? Not me. Because I'm trying to tailor my track as much as I can, that I can last as long as possible.
But you know what? That's really sound advice, because as a kid, just like you said, all you want is to be front and center. You want the gig, but there is something to be said for knowing what you physically can maintain. You know, knowing what you can do. I auditioned I was in college, and I auditioned for Alabama Shakespeare. And the Alabama Shakes, they came to our school, and I auditioned, and I was like, oh my God, this would be amazing. And I did my monologue, and they're like, great. Can you eat fire? And I was like, I can learn to. And as those words, Peter, were coming out of my mouth, I was like, what are you saying?
Right.
What are you saying? Can you eat fire?
Right.
I think that is such
Can you eat fire and then sing an aria right afterwards? And then you're like, what have I done?
Heresy? Singing. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I love that. Okay. So in the process of interviewing people, my friend, I don't know if you know her, but the world is this big in theater. Do you know Janet Dickinson and Doug Reese?
Was that 2 people? Or was that okay? It sounded like a long name.
Janet Dickinson, and then Doug Reese, who was originally from Pittsburgh. Anyway,
Doug Reese sounds familiar.
You probably, if you saw him, you probably know him.
Okay.
They said a phrase that I now bring up in all my interviews because I think it's something that even as an adult, I need to remind myself of. And the quote is this, and I'd love to know what you think it means. There's no such thing as a wasted good audition. What do you think?
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Especially for my kids who don't get the part they want, right? And they're still trying, and they're still putting themselves out there. There's no such thing as a wasted good audition. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and the reason for that is this, and you just started to hit on it, is the theater world is this small. You have a good audition, you come in another time for them and they will remember you. And, or they'll go, where do I remember you from? And you remind them, and then they're like, oh, yes, I do remember. Like, you're laying the groundwork for later. So the more good auditions you have, eventually they're going to give you the chance. So you're absolutely right. There's no such thing.
What throughout the course of doing, I'll narrow it down to Hamilton because it's such like a world phenomenon.
It is.
What have you as an artist learned from doing the show?
Learned from doing Hamilton?
Yeah.
I've learned, I've learned that I'm the luckiest person on the planet.
You are.
I am. Because all those tailored tracks that I kept telling you about, this is the epitome of all tailored tracks. And I didn't have a hand in it. It was just given to me. And it's the best job in the world.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to dance.
Right.
I get to sing the same song 3 different times with different lyrics, and everyone's always laughing, and I barely need to move a muscle.
Yeah.
And I'm directed to not move a muscle, especially in the first song. And because it's about the king doesn't have to move.
Right.
And Lynn's lyrics just carry the whole thing. It's all funny. It doesn't. It's just like a Neil Simon play. Just say the lines. They're funny. You don't have to punch anything out. Just do it, and it's there. And so what I've learned is that I'm so thankful for Lynn and his genius, because he's given us all the greatest jobs.
Yeah.
Getting to do his work. And it's amazing too, because I've been fortunate twice in my life to be a part of a phenomenon. The first time was Rent, because at that time that was a phenomenon.
Oh yeah. And
seeing people come in droves to see these shows and change people too. Like, these are works that truly change people. And for that, I'm so blessed and humble. Like, that's what I've learned, is that it's a humbling experience to be a part of something like this. That we just step out on stage and people are going nuts.
Yeah.
And I mean nuts. I got entrance applause my first theater, my first show. And see, I was one of those people, when I auditioned for this show, I hadn't really listened to it. All I had done was learned my part for the audition.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the train yet of Hamilton. I didn't really understand what it was.
Right.
So I was just auditioning for a job. And I was lucky enough to get that job. And then when my first time seeing it was seeing the company I was about to enjoy, like to join.
Wow. That's amazing.
On tour.
Yeah.
And so seeing that and then going, what is this? I'm going to be doing this? Like, this is amazing. And then not really paying attention to the fact that the audience is going nuts when my character comes out. So that when I finally do,
oh yeah,
they're cheering as I enter, and I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea who I am. Like, it's the character, it's the way it's written. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's a blast. It's so much fun.
What did you do to get the job? If you don't mind how many auditions did you have? Was it only a callback and you got it? Or did they just make you sing from the show? What were the hoops you had to jump through?
Well, here's the thing. This is another bit of showing seasoned professional will cut and paste as best he can to get into it, like to get his foot in the door. So my agent calls me up, and my agent is fantastic because I live in central Pennsylvania, about 3 hours from New York. And so he would call me with a project and I just go, nah, or yeah, let's try. You know, like I'm only going for stuff that I know is worth the effort because I'm right for it.
Right.
He says, how about the King in Hamilton? And I'm like, I've actually heard that tune and I think I'm right for that one, right? So let's go for it. But you know, as with all auditions, they're like, give us all 3 songs tomorrow on tape, go. And it's like, wait, what? I don't know this yet. I'm not learning 3 songs in a day. No way. So I learned the first song, which is the entirety of the song, and I learned all the lyrics for that one version. I didn't do the 2 reprises.
Yeah.
I put myself on tape because also the creative team was all in London because they were about to open the London company. Okay. So they said, we just need to see Kings because we're going to need to replace the King on tour. So we need tapes. So, and this is when tapes were really starting to take off. Yeah. Like, I mean, like really starting to take off, where it was all they were doing. And so I put myself on tape just singing the first song, and I sent it to my agent, and my agent's assistant was like, okay, where are the other songs? And I said, no. I sent you one. It's the same song 3 different times. If they don't give me a call back from that, like if that's not enough that they don't get it from that, then I shouldn't be doing this because it's the same song. They understand. So that's all I sent.
Oh my God.
I got a call back. And then I was like, I'll learn it for the callback. So for the callback, I had to go to New York and sing all 3 songs.
What was the turnaround from when you got the you needed to learn the other material?
Okay, so I set myself on tape before. Sorry, my cat's on the other side of the door meowing like crazy. I put myself on tape before Thanksgiving. I had a callback like 2nd week of December. Okay. Right? And then I had a final callback the 2nd week of January.
Okay.
And so that's two in-person callbacks. And then I joined the company a week later.
So in the process of you, after you sent the first self-tape, did you let it go? Or did you start, you did. You didn't start learning the other work.
Yeah, I let it go because they said, hey, listen, they're in London. Who knows when they're getting to this?
Yeah.
Which helped me let it go, but I let it go. But then when they called for a callback, I'm like, oh, I better start learning this. So, and I had a few days for that, and it was fine. But I also remembered what was bizarre was all the people they were seeing for the King. And I mean, running age, like Jonathan Groff's younger than me.
Yeah.
But Brian Darcy James was the original King at the Public. And he's older than me, right? Yeah. And then you have, like, I saw John Lloyd Young at this call. I saw Hugh Pinero at this. Do you know who Hugh Pinero is? He was the Phantom for many years.
Oh.
And like, and I'm like, hold on, Addison, don't let her in here. Sorry, one second.
We allow cats in the interview. Cats are welcome.
I don't know where they are. Ask mommy. Sorry. Anyway, they were just seeing a lot of people, and the age range was wide. But I mean, for the King, you can. Like, you can have a young guy playing it. You can have an older guy play it. It doesn't matter, which is great. And so that was just weird because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're casting a wide net on this role. But I got it. Who knows?
You look a little bit like Jonathan Groff, though. So do you
think?
Do
I? Okay.
Yeah. Do you think that helps?
I not necessarily, because I also know what some of the other Kings look like, and we're all, I mean, other than the fact that we're all white, you know, there's a different range of guys, you know, and
I got you.
I don't know. I think I also know that, and I'm not going to reveal who I was up against at the very end, because I do know that when it was between me and another guy, they went and checked references and they started calling around the business to say, what is this person like to work with? And I got the job because I was.
This again for my students.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you all think Miss Loud is crazy, there it is. There it is. You've heard it from the king's mouth. They check up on you.
Yeah.
It matters how you treat other people. It matters. And I say that all the time, and hearing it from you, I think holds so much weight.
Yeah. And I'll give you one more quick name dropping comment, is that Jeffrey Seller, who's our producer, very successful producer. He was also my producer in Rent, one of my many producers actually in Rent. But he told me when I got to see him on tour, he said, "Hey, Peter, you know, when I saw that they were considering you, I said to them, I'm so glad that Peter is in the running for this because he's great. And I remember him from his Rent days." And you're right. It's treat everyone nice. Like, don't ever burn bridges.
No.
You know, be nice to everyone and you'll continue to work.
It does matter. I often tell my kids, I said, you know, if you're a director or you're a choreographer and you're in a room and like you said, everyone's talented.
Yeah.
And you have a connection or you have a past relationship, you're more likely to get the gig because they trust you. They know you. They know that you're going to be kind. They know you're going to be easy to work with and take risks. And I say that to my kids. I'm like a broken record about that. It's so great to hear you say that. So during the pandemic, how did you stay creative? What did you do to not lose your mind? Because, and it's okay to say that you watched, oh my God, you did.
Just learn to play the uke, you know. You know, like, I mean, just play stupid things. But honestly, though, that's kind of the extent of it for me. Because for me, the pandemic has been, I've been focusing on family.
Oh,
because when I was on tour, that was the one thing missing. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, but I'm home. I'm just going to be a dad again and be with my kid and be with my wife. And, you know, like, and that's what I focused on for most of the pandemic. I did very few creative things because, again, I've been very lucky and Hamilton has been communicating with us the whole time. And they are like, we will be back, but we will be back. And it's one of those things that I didn't have to worry as much because I knew we would.
Yeah.
So I just said, let me just focus.
I think that is creative and it does fill your soul. And for those of, you know, for my kids listening, you know, because Peter's been working so much, I think that it's also a nice reminder that sometimes you don't have to have that competitive switch going 24/7. You know,
Sure.
you fill your soul up, fill your creative soul up in different ways, and I think that's also a really good lesson that you took care of you and your family, and so when it is time to go back into the theater, you're ready.
Right. It's true.
I think it's obviously a role you can play until you die. I mean, it's amazing. It's like, but
I don't plan on leaving until they kick me out, honestly.
What roles are in your bucket list that you're hoping someday you will get to play?
You know, again, I've been very lucky in my life that I've actually played most of my bucket list roles. The only one left There's two left, but one I've aged out of. I aged out of Pippin a long time ago, but I want to play Don Quixote one day too.
Oh yeah, let age up into that. But you.
Yeah, exactly. And I've already played Valjean, but I played it pretty young, so I could still keep doing that one.
Yeah, and your voice would be so glorious on Don Quixote. Oh, that would be so good. Well, I have to tell my students a quick story about you. When Peter was doing Hairspray, my husband and I went to New York, and you helped us get tickets to see it. And I have to say, when you were talking about theater changing you, how it changes people, it affects people.
Yeah.
For me, that show was one of the most beautifully emotional shows, as joyous and silly as it was, that I have ever seen. And we were like lasered into you, watching you the whole time, but it was absolutely, I don't want it to go unapplauded, because you were so present and so vibrant in that cast. Although you weren't the star, you were.
I was
amazing, and I have such gratitude that I got to see that show, and thank you for helping. But
sure.
That must have been also a pretty electric experience in your.
Hairspray was awesome. Like, because the whole experience was a blast, and because I was a part of Hairspray from the first reading all the way through until Broadway opening, and then I was in the Broadway show for about 2.5 years before I left. But the whole process was like 5 years if you include all the readings. Now, mind you, it wasn't 5 years constant, but once we started rehearsals for Seattle and for Broadway, it was pretty much like a 3-year solid Hairspray. What I loved about Hairspray was kind of like what you're referring to, is that when people were on their feet by the end of that show, because it was so much fun. People had such a good time at Hairspray. We were giving everyone a good time. For us, though, dancing in that show, I was ready to die. We'd finish Nicest Kids in Town, which is technically the second song, and I was done. I was like, I'm done. Can we be done? Because I'm exhausted. And
I'm done.
It's like like it's one of those like smiling and you could barely breathe. And I remember turning upstage and like saying to my dance partner, who was Shauna Bean at the time, and being like, I feel like I'm breathing in charred blood. Like this isn't good. Is it gonna get easier? Is it gonna get easier? Like 3 years later, it feels the same. It felt the same every time. It was the most aerobic. I never had to like work out.
Yeah, it was doing
that show. The show kept me in shape. Then, of course, once I left the show, I just, like my body was like, oh yeah, you remember that workout you used to do? Maybe you should have kept that up and stop eating snacks.
We've all experienced show fit, where you're like, I'm doing the show, and then a month or two goes by and you're like, I will never fit in my costume again. I will never, ever be that same size. I've been here a million times. So any other advice that you would give young artists that, about making connections, being authentic, having self-discipline, but is there anything else that through your experience that you're like, time machine, that's what I'm going back and telling my younger self?
Well, okay, there's one caveat to all of this. Is the time machine, is it a young person today or truly a young person when I was a kid? Because the problem is the business has changed.
Oh my gosh, you got to go into that because you just blew the top off of it. You are so right. Okay, let's first say it's you back in time.
Back in time. All right. And actually, this is true today too. Go to class, like work on your weaknesses a lot. And I mean a lot. Because, everybody goes, okay, I'm a this first, I'm a singer first, I'm an actor first, and whatever you are first. Still keep working on that because guess what? Everyone's good at it. But also everyone's good at everything else too. So those parts that you're really like stressed about, you're going to continue to be stressed about those unless you get them under your belt and into a place that's comfortable.
That's fantastic.
And also, you will never be comfortable. And if you are comfortable, get the hell out. Because you should never be so comfortable that you just think your poop doesn't stink. Okay? Because everyone's poop stinks. And you're not God's gift to whatever you think you're God's gift to. Work on everything. Definitely work on your weaknesses.
But before you go to the other direction, which is blowing my mind, I wish other people had asked the same question you asked. Sometimes in your life, and I think this is also important for kids to remember, sometimes you feel like God's gift. You feel like nothing is going wrong. Everyone loves me. I'm the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the iceberg is much bigger when you leave your little hometown.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
No, and feel great right now, but there will be days you feel like poo.
Yeah. And the other thing too is this. When you're auditioning, you got to toe the line. You got to present yourself in a way that says, I can do this, but not I'm the best one you'll ever see. No, don't do that. Just be confident. Confidence is very important, but not overconfidence.
Okay, now go to that other thing that you were saying, because that was, now you're going back in time. Peter now is going back to a young kid living in 2020.
Yeah, it's like, the problem is, and know that this all nauseates me because it's not my world. But good God, you have to be able to do everything now. And now, I'm not talking just dance, sing, and act. You need to be able to edit. You need to be able to come up with content. You need to be a film producer, a director, and all these things. Because these self-tapes, these TikToks, these Instagram influencers are taking over. And believe it or not, these days, a question will be asked of you is how many followers do you have on whatever platform they're referring to at that moment. Now, the good news for me and Chris, they don't care as much for people our age. So they know that all of us at this age group are doing that. We might do it a little, but we're not going to be good at it. And if you are good at it, then guess what? That's your new job. But anyway, so unfortunately, young people nowadays, you have to put yourself on camera as much as possible, and you have to be comfortable with that. And you have to be able to put out as much interesting content as you possibly can.
You've just given me the greatest gift and you didn't even know it. So I'm going to tell you why I'm freaking out.
Okay.
During the pandemic, we were teaching virtually. And I said to my kids, I'm never going to ask you something I haven't done myself. So you're going to write an original cabaret. You're going to film it, edit it, and this is what's going to be in your cabaret. 2 songs, 2 stories, a parody song, and a montage that shows change of time or character. Every single one of my students produced a video cabaret themselves. Now, it was an epic amount of work. I thought at one point my head was just going to explode. But I said to the kids, this is the new world. And then out of the blue, you just said this, which makes me feel like all that work that we went through this year, you've just validated it all for them. Yeah. I mean, you just did it. If they in 7th and 8th grade can write and produce content, funny content, edit it, special effect it, there's nothing they can't do.
Yeah, I'll say this real quick. If you're cute, you probably don't have to work as hard, and I hate you for that. But if you're not cute, like the rest of us, you got to be funny. And if it's not funny, then people are just going to keep scrolling or whatever they're doing, you know.
And there you've heard it. You've heard it all from the king. Any other pieces of advice, or do you want to? Are you coming back to Pittsburgh again with Hamilton?
Actually, with Hamilton, not this year. The show is coming to Pittsburgh. It won't be my company.
Okay.
It'll be another tour. There's 2 tours right now, about to be a third. Because the San Francisco company is going to eventually tour. So there'll be 3 national companies by this time next year. So, nice. But yeah, I won't be coming to Pittsburgh the next time, but like I said, and I'm going to keep signing contracts until they kick me out. So I might come back at some point.
There you go.
When we keep coming back to Pittsburgh, hopefully I'll get to come back again.
And you only get a 2-week hiatus, so I'm assuming on your break you vacation. Are there any more plans for directing?
For directing for me? Yeah. Not yet. Not yet. I'm not even thinking about that right now.
Yeah. You got
honestly.
Plate. Yeah.
I am singing the national anthem at a Pirate game on July 18th, though.
I did a Pens game.
You did a what?
A Penguins game.
Oh, did you? Nice.
So welcome to the National Anthem Club.
Boom.
I am excited for someday my ultimate dream, and I know you're a Steeler fanatic, would be,
Steeler game.
It's only 8 games, so.
I know, when you get in there, you're like, all right.
Yeah, but you've been on one way, so there's a very good chance you could do a Steeler game.
It's possible. It's possible. If I believe me, every time we go to a city that I have any sort of like love for, like Pittsburgh, or I lived in Columbus for a little while, you know, like cities like that, I'm like, let's do national anthems. Although usually I'm always like, let the young people do that stuff. Yeah. But for my hometown, they better let me do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Don't sign off yet, but I'm gonna tie a bow on this.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've heard it here. You've heard it from the king. You've heard it from an amazingly kind, generous soul who started in Pittsburgh, just like all of you. And with hard work and a little bit of luck, but mostly hard work and being kind and continuing to be self-disciplined, he continues to be working in one of, if the most celebrated musical in the history of musicals. So keep working, all of you, and keep taking this advice. I always end every interview the same way. Usually Paul's here and I say, I love you to him. And then I say, and we love you. And I do love you, Peter Matthew Smith. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I love you too.